Welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys another playtesting video. So this time, we're gonna go ahead and work with my Altergeist deck. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So starting off, we're going to draw our 5 cards, and we see that we open with Imperial Order, Altergeist Silquidus, Solemn Judgment, Pot of Duality, and Altergeist Manifestation. So these 5 cards are actually not too bad. It looks like we have a lot of defensive trap cards, which is obviously very powerful for this deck. So I'm going to go ahead and activate my Pot of Duality to see if I can grab anything good. So we've revealed a Solemn Strike, Personal Spoofing, and Altergeist Meluseek. Now the reason why I didn't go ahead and grab a Meluseek is because I can't actually go for a Link Summon because Pot of Duality stops me from using my special summons this turn. So if I can't go for a Link Summon into Link Rebo, then I can't actually go for a search to grab Multi-Faker out from my deck. So the next best thing was to go ahead and add my Personal Spoofing. And because I already had a copy of my Altergeist Silquidus, which I'm normal summoning to my side of the field right here, it means that I can go ahead and shuffle it back and go ahead and grab a Multi-Faker. Multi-Faker can then special summon itself from the hand, and then I can go ahead and summon the Silquidus back out from the deck, which is basically just a free easy +1. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead, set all of my back row to my side of the field. This is a very solid start, especially against the more meta matchups that you might be playing against at your locals or your regionals. I end the turn with no cards in my hand, so you don't have to fear anything like a reincarnation ruining your hand on your next turn. Alright guys, so taking a look at this opening hand right here, we have a copy of Meluseek, Marionetter, Protocol, Personal Spoofing, and Imperial Order. So this hand is off to a really strong start, especially with the oppression that Imperial Order brings to the table. So the first things first, we're going to go ahead and normal summon our Altergeist Meluseek to our side of the field, and then use her as link material for the link summon of Link Rebo. Man, that was a lot of links in that sentence. Anyway, let's go ahead and use that Meluseek's effect in the graveyard to go ahead and grab a search for a copy of Altergeist Multi-Faker. Multi-Faker is of course the fantastic addition to the deck from Flames of Destruction that allows you to go ahead and special summon a bunch of times on your opponent's turn and establish a very strong and versatile board. Multi-Faker can easily summon something like Silquidus out to your side of the field as well, which can add some additional disruption by bouncing cards back to your opponent's hand. So I'm going to go ahead and set my back row to my side of the field, the Imperial Order, the Personal Spoofing, the Altergeist Protocol, and then I'm going to end my turn with 2 cards left in my hand, one of them being the Multi-Faker we just searched out, and the other the Marionetter that was in our hand from our opening turn. So yeah, that basically does it for that turn. Now let's go ahead and look at my next opening hand. Of course, that follow-up play to that previous hand was that I can normal summon my Marionetter on my next turn and then go from there. So in this opening hand, we opened with 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 1 copy of Pot of Duality, 1 Silquidus, and 1 Personal Spoofing. The 2 Infinite Impermanence are proxied with cards that are blank, so that's what those are for. Now I'm going to start off by playing my Pot of Duality, and Pot of Duality allows me to kind of just dig around for some more cards. And oh, looky here, we got a copy of Torrential Tribute, which I'm definitely going to pick up because of the fact that we have Personal Spoofing and another Altergeist monster in our hand, which means that we can do what Ritual Beasts do really well, which is kind of just dodge their own Torrential Tributes. So in this case, if I use my Personal Spoofing to shuffle a monster on the field back into the deck, I can dodge my own Torrential Tribute because I won't really lose anything after it activates. And then after Torrential Tribute resolves, whatever I shuffle back with Spoofing is going to be used to exchange for a copy of Multi-Faker. And so then after the Torrential Tribute resolves and clears out the board, I can start a new chain with Multi-Faker, and I can go ahead and establish a board after that. Now I'm going to set my 2 Infinite Impermanence, one in the leftmost column and one in the center column. Infinite Impermanence is very good because it can lock down your opponent's back row as well by negating any spell or traps that are activated in that column afterwards. And so because most people like to activate their spell and trap cards in the centermost zones, and because of course pendulums are in the left and right zones, those are the optimal places to go ahead and set those. So in our next opening hand, we have a copy of Marionetter, Anti-Spell, Torrential Tribute, Protocol, and Infinite Impermanence. Now this hand is also very solid because of the fact that we do have a play in the form of Marionetter, and we have 4 more back row to back her up. Now, Marionetter is going to go ahead and search for a copy of a Altergeist trap card. Now, because I already have a copy of Protocol in my hand, I'm going to go ahead and set a manifestation from my deck to my side of the field. Now, I make a little mistake here and I add it to my hand accidentally, but basically what you do is just set it to one of the zones on your spell and trap zones, and then you can go ahead and set the rest of your cards to your side of the field. But in this case, for demonstration purposes, it doesn't really change anything and it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you actually set it to your side of the field when you're actually playing, or else you could potentially get a warning or disqualified for trying to cheat or something like that. But anyway, we're going to set everything to our back row, and that basically empties out our hand. Again, Altergeists have very simple first turn plays that are just very, very oppressive and difficult for your opponent to play around if they come unprepared. Okay, so for our next opening hand, we have drawn our 5 cards, and now let's take a look at what we have. We see right off the bat, we see 2 copies of Personal Spoofing, 1 copy of Protocol, 1 Anti-Spell Fragrance, and 1 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So unfortunately this time around, we do not have a copy of an Altergeist monster, but what we do have is 2 copies of Personal Spoofing, which is actually quite nice. Personal Spoofing can be activated more than once a turn, which is pretty good, which means that you can go ahead and do some shenanigans on your opponent's turn with things like Multi-Faker, and if they're trying to attack into you, possibly Conquery as well. So what we can do on our opponent's turn is flip over the Protocol and then flip over our Personal Spoofing, shuffling the Protocol into the deck and allowing us to search for a Multi-Faker, which can then be summoned to our side of the field alongside of a Silquidus as well. We do have an Ash Blossom left in our hand, which is pretty good negation for our opponent. Unfortunately though, we do lose that Protocol, so we lose that form of negation, but instead we trade it for a Multi-Faker and Silquidus, which are nice field presence. So in our next opening hand, we have a copy of Ghost Ogre, Desires, Meluseek, Imperial Order, and Solemn Strike. So the Pot of Desires is basically going to come in very clutch right here, activating it to banish 10 cards from the top of my deck to draw 2 more. Now the reason why Pot of Desires is so fantastic in this deck is because you just want to see more cards. More monsters and more back row are always very welcome. So let's go ahead and check what cards we banish with this Pot of Desires so we know what we're working with. We see a few Altergeist cards, but that doesn't really matter as long as we're not banishing every single copy of any one of them. And yep, it looks like we're all good to go. So this was a very good Desires, very solid, and now let's take a look at what cards we drew off of the card. So the 2 cards that we managed to draw include Torrential Tribute and Infinite Impermanence, which don't really help us too much with our opening hand, but can obviously provide a ton of disruption on our opponent's turn, so it's definitely still workable. So the next thing I'm going to do is normal summon my Altergeist Meluseek and then use her as link material for the link summon of my Link Kuriboh. This allows me to easily put my Meluseek into the graveyard so I can go ahead and activate her effect and go for a search. And it also puts Link Kuriboh on my side of the field, so I can of course go ahead and negate my opponent's attacks if they try to run over my monsters or try to bait out some of my card effects. So I'm going to go ahead and of course search out a copy of Altergeist Multi-Faker. Because of all the trap cards I have in my hand, there's really no way that I'm not going to resolve this card on my opponent's turn and summon her out alongside of a Silquidus from my deck. So the next thing I'm going to do is of course set all of my cards down into the spell and trap zones, making sure my Infinite Impermanence is in the center. I've also set my Torrential Tribute, which is very nice for clearing out my opponent's board, Solemn Strike for negating card effects, and of course Imperial Order to shut down all spell cards on the field, in which case it doesn't affect us because of course we are not running many. So we also end with a Ghost Ogre in hand, which is going to be very nice for destroying our opponent's cards, but of course the Ghost Ogre can be replaced with whatever hand traps you're running in your deck, such as Droll and Lockbird or anything of that sort. Anyway, moving on into our next opening hand, we're going to go ahead and draw 5 more cards. Apparently I can't really count, so I drew 3 to start off with, so we don't have that perfect start. But anyway, it looks like we have Multi-Faker, Silkwoodes, Marionetter, Ash Blossom, and Torrential Tribute to start off in this hand. So the first thing I'm going to do is normal summon my Marionetter and activate her effect to set an Altergeist trap card directly from my deck to my side of the field. And of course, because I don't have a copy of it, I'm going to set Protocol to my side of the field. Protocol is fantastic, not only because it can negate the opponent's monster effects that activate, but also it protects your Altergeist monster's effects from being negated, which is very good. So I'm going to set that Torrential Tribute to my side of the field, and I'm pretty much done for this turn. Next turn I can go ahead and activate my Altergeist Protocol, my opponent's turn, summoning the Multi-Faker out from my hand, and then summoning a Silkwoodes out alongside of her, so that I potentially can bounce something from my opponent's field back to the hand. And also I have that Torrential Tribute that I could use and potentially wipe my opponent's board, and then after the Torrential Tribute resolves, I can summon the Multi-Faker out from my hand that way. But anyway guys, that does it for this playtesting video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Altergeist content, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.